Alright, let's try this little bitty hammerstone. I might have to switch out of it, but let's see how it goes. I spent years when I lived in Arkansas. I was working so much small QB flint. I did a lot around 2001 to 2004. I made a lot of percussion, teeny little preforms. I got pretty good at it. It's been a long time since I've worked on teeny stuff, but I ought to do a video of that. There's a lot of knapping that I've done that's not obviously I put on YouTube. But the accuracy gets a little tricky on those. So let's take, we've got a little bit of width up the tip. Pinch when the edge is thin and there's not really a platform. Pinch, pinch. I can't wear gloves. Part of the reason I don't knap a lot of obsidian is because when I do and I start putting on gloves, it feels weird. I can't do it. I mean, I probably need to learn how to do it for working glass. But for this chert, a lot of these flakes, for the preform that I want, involves quite a bit of edge finger support. Training and thickening. Going slow is weird. Feels like I'm messing stuff up because I'm trying to go too slow. That flake there, now we've got a ridge here to come across and through that concrete. This platform's heavy, I might need a little larger hammerstone. That's pretty tough in there. Here's a situation where I'd see a lot of people grind this and think, well, that's a platform. But when you're cracking the edge and you're removing all this extra thinness, all it takes is half a second to just trim that over a little bit. Because of how that released, if I hadn't adjusted this a little bit, it might have done something on that concrete area. Sometimes what I do is I think about things being used before they're finished. A lot of these preforms had a use before they're finished into formal projectiles. So taking your time and making edges in areas where you're keeping in mind that you also want platforms, but learning how to like make this into a knife and do edges, it's helpful if everything isn't ground and you can just learn to take little flakes. Because of how high and rolled this is, I don't want to hit that there because that's going to cause that flake to be very deep. So I might just take the angle off that just a little bit. See that? Down low, trimming. And in these cases I don't need to trap the flakes. Where the edges, where the platform is high and I want it to carry through, that's when I pinch. If it's low and I just want it clean, I just let it go off into air. This will be a platform we'll put on standby because of how lean it is and sharp. We'll wait until after we come down here. Working on small pieces with hammerstones is a great way to learn, and then you can just scale up. You don't have to worry about accuracy because the blows are short, and you know, you're not swinging and straining on stuff. You're just taking little bitty flakes where you need to. That was nice. So see why we didn't do this earlier? As low as if it would have stopped. This created an opportunity to get a better flake from there. Just a small, smoother. A little light abrasion will wear out any imperfections in the end of your hammerstone. If you can learn to time your swings to where you can keep platforms intact, that's when you know you're learning. There's shatter around the platform. The area we're released, if I would have hit that really fast and really hard, that would have crushed the platform. Hammerstone platforms will have just a little round cone. Semi-round. Most areas that have any sort of sandstone or grabby stones, it doesn't have to be sandstone. So you can go to the stone supply yard, and then, like I sent out all those boxes of scrap rock. The little fun hammerstones are so fun to do on little scrappy pieces. So nice and smooth. See how these shorter ones are just smoothing, but it's flat there? And now when I turn, and I come back and I do something similar here, we'll have, we might need to do a little bit thin and still for our martingale, but not too much. Hammerstones don't like really isolated platforms. You want to isolate to the point to get in, but you want the contact to be the steep plane. That's what's important. Antler, leaner, hammerstone, steeper. And back grind is what I say is like the way you're hitting. Back means the opposite of the way you're hitting, is how I describe it. Back grind means creating a small facet where the point of contact of the hammerstone is the correct angle scaled down to a small area. So just steeper. Smooth grind. Sometimes you need a harder grind. If I were to grind this with a really aggressive sandstone, then I would just be kind of flaking up the edge. So the smooth grind. There are certain technologies where they actually have faceted platforms, and that's achieved by using like a piece of flint. Hopefully this angle is high enough up. I think it is. Sometimes I'll do just like a holding firm and just kind of a chop and shear. See that? You're dulling. Keeping the angles the same. Tap and shear. There's some hammerstones where they used a lot of abrading and smaller, harder hammerstones, but you use the width more liberally, and then you just go about it different. This is, like I said, this lenticular preform I want to be a little bit more precise. This is an area I have a hard time finger supporting, so sometimes I just grind heavier. Okay, that tip is looking good. I need to bring this back just a little bit. Sometimes I have to decide what I do. Take a little nip and flake, or do I want to just shear that and grind it? When I work fast, I do it intuitively, and I'm getting in my own way making these decisions right now, trying to be so slow so you can see this. Having platforms that do things that you can get away with the compression of softer percussors won't work with a hammerstone. See, that's going up like that. Need to take that down. See how I got that out of the way? And see how the angle is really steep? Hammerstones compress too. When you look at the divot, the reason why they work is because it's crushing the hammerstone, that eventually it'll seat in there and then it'll pulverize, but I'm sure that stuff is compressed in there at the point of contact on the hammerstone. It's able to work. Whoops. I hit to the side of my hammerstone. Now, that platform's not right. That'll have to get put on hold till later. If you have a problem, and it's an area that's narrow, when you need a flake, you don't want to lose a bunch of width up here, and then have especially around a concrete area. So just put that on hold, and lose what width you need to, and then you can work up to that later. Probably going to need some aggressive flakes. So a little bigger hammerstone. Should we try this one? No. No. Let's try this one. And catch this with an overstrike. I like this hammerstone a lot better before it wore in, because it's starting to get these seams. So you brush till you feel where you're going to get even contact. The softer hammerstones can make little smoother flakes. See how it just shattered and cleaned through the overstrike? That's what the hammerstone platforms are so different, because that isolated platform with antler, it would have grabbed, and then you'd end up with a small shell hinge off the area or overstrike. Hammerstones, if the angle is addressed evenly, they shatter clean. See how nice that is? Now for our edge, we had it turned, so our body's really good there. So we need to do just likewise here, trim and clean through that through the other edge. So grinding down to create that steep angle. And just doing a little cleaning flake, see that? Generally don't like to move. I'll look at areas where I have a radius, and I'll also not like to necessarily work serially on these hammerstone flakes. Because if edge is thin and you mess something up, if you work back and mess up, then you have two other options. So it's helpful to sort of work from the ends and kind of go like this. I don't think about everything like this like it's planned. It's just that you accidentally start doing things a certain way, and then you try to figure out why. Why did you do it that way? And a lot of it's just, you just learn over time what you have to do for the tool. It's not something that's read or researched or learned about in books and then applied. So there's a little, we have a really thick kind of messed up area there, but if I think I get in there with a corner, like a corner up here, I can, nope. These hammerstone flakes can be thin and terminate really nice. Reliever. See, I just went up and took that little one. That'll relieve that a little bit. Now, since our edge is going up high, I'd put that on hold. I'd come back, lose a teeny bit of length there, smooth down here, and then find an opportunity at some point to get that. And then a little one here. And then we'll be done with this hammerstone. So remember, take your time, be deliberate. Unless you got a ton of rock. I spent a lot of time on hammerstones because I had high quality but very fractured, weird cubey shaped pieces of rock, and spending the time to sometimes decide you just want to take a big flake off something, and that's what you're going to get. And other times learning how to be really stingy about the material when it's not, when you want to keep the length on points out of small material. See those little tremors? How nice they are. Hammerstone signatures, those little fine undulations on those tremors. Little fine ripples. Let's just see, here we go. The flake split, but it had enough support. See the ridge? The cone folded, but it did well, and now we've got a nice ridge here. Everybody mows the grass when I film videos. See how nice and smooth and earlier kick nice that is? Just a teeny, a little bigger, a little bigger. This area is a little bit harder. The bottom will have to be addressed probably with, I want to have this point straight, and we've got a little taper here, but I think this is going to get sorted out with a little bit of vertical punch work or a little bit of horizontal punch work to get into the notching on this martindale. And knowing how to be deliberate with hammerstones and brushing to get the contact areas, the sandstone wears down. And if you get a feel, this takes months, right? You can't watch a YouTube video on this and then learn protocols on this stuff. You have to just have some feel for it, but learning where to brush, learning when to pick corners, massing your hammerstones within a range to see what you can get away with, tightening up when the preform is finished because you don't want to make an irretrievable error, and then stopping when you know you've worked through the range of the tool. It's about being clever, not being skillful. It's about knowing the ranges and the odds of successful flake removals, and then knowing when to either stop using the tool or to tighten up and change strategy slightly and slow down when things get finished. But that's the nice range of this sandstone hammerstone. And I probably should have held on the edges for platforms longer, but I want to be My whole purpose of this, and some people say, why are you sharing all that stuff? People are just going to make, you know, arrowheads like you, and you sell arrowheads, so you're cutting your own throat. And no, I'm not, because there's so many easier ways to flint knap for people just trying to get through A to Z to make a arrowhead, that there's very few people that are going to do this. And if they are, awesome. And you know, it doesn't bother me if people can do this. So hopefully that's slow and helpful. Once again, this piece was kind of tough in the middle. You kind of want to chase one side. You want to work that turtle back, bevel your edges the same way, and decide which side you're going to chip off. Because if I had gone about this rock differently, then I wouldn't have had this quality right here. I would have had it be concretey on both sides.